Be sure to subscribe to the channel and let's promote respect for the Royal Guard together. Let the whole world see how many of us there are. A tourist poured water on a Royal Guard, thinking he could get away with anything. But the soldier's reaction shocked everyone. What happened next changed everything. But let's start from the very beginning. The morning sun bathed Buckingham Palace in warm rays, reflecting off its grand golden gates and the meticulously maintained square. A colorful mosaic of tourists gathered around, filling the air with laughter, the clicking of cameras, and lively conversations. At the forefront stood a guardsman, motionless. Tall, with an iron-like posture and a gaze fixed on a single point, he seemed to embody British tradition. His bearskin hat amplified his strength and detachment from the bustle around him. His steadfastness commanded respect from most, though not from everyone. Among the crowd, one man stood out. His bright t-shirt with a loud print, shorts, and athletic sneakers drew attention. A backpack hung off one shoulder, and he held a plastic water bottle in his hand. His loud voice cut through the general hum. "Look how serious they are! What is this? A show or a museum?" he called out, winking at his friend, who chose to distance himself. The man was clearly enjoying the attention. Taking a step closer to the white line separating the guards from the tourists, he theatrically leaned toward the nearest soldier. "Are you even alive? Maybe you're a robot. Let me touch your hat," he said, stretching out his words and laughing. The guardsman didn't flinch. His stern gaze remained fixed, as if the entire world beyond that white line simply didn't exist. But the tension in the air was mounting, like the calm before a storm. Some tourists began pulling out their phones, ready to capture how this scene would unfold. "Come on, buddy, at least blink," the man persisted, turning to the crowd for support. A few people chuckled nervously, but many averted their eyes, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. The crowd froze in anticipation. What would the guardsman do? Stand firm in the face of provocation, or respond? Everyone knew. The moment of truth was near. The man wasn't backing down. His provocations reached a new level. The crowd, waiting for the scene to end, grew increasingly uneasy with every passing second. The tourist raised his water bottle over his head, giving it a little shake as he looked around theatrically, trying to draw more attention. His smirk brimmed with smug confidence. "Hey, soldier boy, it's hot out here in the sun, huh? How about a little refreshment?" he shouted, addressing not only the guardsmen, but also the entire crowd. The reaction was immediate. A woman holding a child gasped, covering her mouth in shock. An elderly man in a hat exclaimed indignantly, "This is outrageous! The Royal Guard is not a tourist attraction." A few tourists began whispering, clearly disapproving of the man's behavior. But he seemed to revel in the situation. Ignoring everyone around him, he stepped closer, crossing the white line that clearly separated the guards from the public. "That's too much," someone muttered from the back of the crowd. The man stopped just a step away from the guardsman, his grin widening. "All right, here you go, just for you," he said mockingly, unscrewing the cap of the water bottle. A thin stream of water splashed onto the guardsman's perfectly pressed uniform. A moment of silence. The crowd froze, as if all the air had suddenly been sucked out of the square. Those holding phones stopped recording, unable to believe what they were seeing. Someone whispered softly, "Did he really just do that?" The guardsman remained as still as a statue. His face betrayed no emotion, but his gaze now carried an icy intensity. Only his tightly pressed lips and slightly raised shoulders hinted at the tension building inside him. It was clear in that moment. His patience had reached its limit. The driver of a tour bus, watching the scene unfold, honked loudly. The blaring sound echoed over the crowd, as if condemning the man's actions. But the tourist wasn't stopping. His confidence only seemed to grow. "Come on! Show us you're not just a mannequin!" he shouted, taking a step back and raising the bottle defiantly. The crowd began murmuring and debating the spectacle. Now everyone knew the guardsman might react. But how? And how far would this brash man go to test the patience of the crown's sentinel? The guardsman, who had been standing motionless, suddenly took a step forward. His movement was precise, almost automatic, and the unexpected gesture caused the crowd to freeze in place. As if on instinct, People raised their phones to capture the moment. The guardsman's commanding figure straightened even more, his gaze hardened, and the tension in the air reached its peak. Then, breaking the long silence, his voice, loud as thunder, echoed across the square. "Sir, you have crossed the boundary! Step back immediately!" The words, spoken with impeccable authority, carried the weight of a command that could not be ignored. The man, who just seconds ago had looked so confident and smug, recoiled. His grin disappeared, replaced by an expression of bewilderment. I was just joking," he stammered, trying to regain control of the situation. But his voice sounded uncertain, as if even he didn't believe his own words. The crowd immediately came alive. Where moments ago there had been laughter and curiosity, there were now angry exclamations. "Shame on you! Show some respect for their service! So much for your jokes!" The guardsman stood his ground, his gaze as immovable as stone, and his posture radiating genuine authority. Every movement, every word he had spoken, conveyed not only discipline, but a deep respect for his duty and traditions. While the man attempted to justify himself, an officer approached with purposeful strides. His stern expression made it clear that the situation had gone beyond acceptable limits. "Come with me, sir," the officer said firmly, placing a hand on the man's shoulder. The man tried to protest, but the officer had already turned him around and was leading him away under the disapproving stares of the crowd. "Well, he got what he deserved," an elderly woman muttered from the side. "Maybe next time he'll think twice before messing with the guards," added a young onlooker. The guardsman, as if nothing had happened, returned to his position. His face regained its stoic expression, and his stance was flawless once again. But now, the crowd looked at him with newfound respect, realizing they were in the presence of not just a man in uniform, but a symbol of honor and tradition. The internet exploded, and the palace grew quieter. The video of the incident spread like wildfire across social media, quickly going viral. Users eagerly discussed how a brazen tourist had tried to humiliate a royal guard, only for the soldier to calmly yet firmly put him in his place. "This is what real composure looks like. These traditions deserve respect, not to be turned into a circus. The guardsman isn't just a professional, he's an example for all of us." Comments filled timelines as the video garnered millions of views. Some marveled at the soldier's poise, while others expressed outrage at the tourist's behavior. Many posts called for greater respect for British traditions and culture, turning the incident into a lesson for those who think money grants them unlimited privilege. The next day, the atmosphere at Buckingham Palace had noticeably changed. The crowd of tourists, which normally buzzed like a hive, was surprisingly quiet. The White Line, once treated as a mere suggestion, now felt like a sacred boundary that no one dared to cross. People looked at the guards with admiration and respect, understanding that their duty was not a mere performance, but a part of history and tradition. Among the crowd was a man with a young boy. They stopped at the permitted distance from a guardsman. The boy tugged at his father's hand, whispering something in his ear. Smiling, the man looked up at the soldier and said, "Thank you for your service. You reminded us all how important it is to respect others' traditions. This was a lesson for all of us." The guardsman gave a slight nod, maintaining his impeccable demeanor. His still posture and impassive expression once again embodied unwavering honor. At that moment, the crowd began to applaud. These were not the usual claps from tourists seeking entertainment, but an expression of gratitude and respect. The sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the palace and the figure of the guardsman. People took photos, but now not for amusement. They wanted to capture a meaningful moment that reminded everyone that such traditions are more than a spectacle. They are a symbol of resilience and culture, deserving of respect. The guardsman adjusted his bearskin hat, his gaze once again fixed on the distance, as though nothing had happened. Yet the atmosphere carried a sense that this day had left a mark on many. The honor of the royal guard had been reaffirmed in the hearts of the people.